We're heading overseas because the US President Joe Biden has unveiled his most restrictive immigration policy yet. To explain more, let's bring in North America correspondent Carrington Clark. Good morning, Carrington. We were anticipating that there was going to be some kind of announcement here, and today we got it. So run us through what Joe Biden's announced.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is a major change in direction for the president, who came to power after criticising the hard line that his predecessor Donald Trump had taken. And this policy looks a lot like the policies that we saw in place under the Trump administration. Now, effectively, what this executive order means is that there will be restrictions on the border, which will effectively ban most asylum seekers once a certain threshold is reached. Now, that threshold is when the average over the previous 7 days reaches 2,500 people per day. Now, importantly, that threshold has already been reached, which means that this policy comes into effect almost immediately. And what will then happen is that the administration will send back those asylum seekers that they say are ineligible to enter the United States, either back to their home country or back to Mexico. Now, there are carve-outs either for unaccompanied minors, but also people who face serious medical or safety risks, although it's still unclear exactly how quickly those risks can be assessed. But Joe Biden says he was simply put into a position where he had to act, and he says there is a global migration crisis and there are just simply more people trying to come to the United States at the moment than the country can possibly deal with.
So I will never demonize immigrants. I'll never refer to immigrants as poisoning the blood of a country. And further, I'll never separate children from their families at the border. I will not ban people from this country because of their religious beliefs. I will not use the U.S. military to go into neighborhoods all across the country to pull millions of people out of their homes and away from their families, to put detention camps while awaiting deportation, as my predecessor says he will do.
Now, that is Joe Biden trying to differentiate this particular policy to that we saw under President Trump, who is currently the presumptive Republican nominee for this year's presidential election. Donald Trump, even before this announcement was officially out, was criticising Joe Biden, saying that he's weak on the border and that these policies will do nothing to stop the number of arrivals on the southern border. But importantly, Joe Biden is not only being criticised by his political opponents. Members of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party have already come out and criticised this policy, saying it's too hard line on people who are seeking asylum in the United States. And we know that this will be legally challenged. Now, this is an executive order. The president has the power to enact certain executive orders, but it will be a test in the courts about whether or not this particular executive order goes too far.
OK, Carrington, thanks for the update.